Good morning. Today we are going to talk about the community planning. In this lecture, there are four subtopics that we are going to discuss. First is about the group imperative, second about problems, third about possibilities, and the last one is about the new directions. First of all, we are going to take a look at the group imperative. As we may know that people community actually has evolved from the nomaden era to the maiden era. It started by people who wants to have food, uh, harvest their own resources for their eating, and so that they can survive. From there, we can take a look at several aspects that make people banded together. In here, we can see that actually people gathering together and make a group because they want to have a protection, so that they create a community where they can protect each other, and then also to engage in farming in the past because they want to own control in producing their own resources for food, and then sometimes people to have to been together because of commerce, industry, and also to pursue their religious beliefs. In many developed countries, you can see that minority usually live together in the same area because they have the same religious or beliefs. In this way, it is convenient for them to do religious activities together without having to travel across the city or far away from their house. Settlements grew spontaneously around wherever natural resources were concentrated or abundant, such as harbors, river landings, the crossings of transportation routes. As you can see that actually in our history as human, the first thing that we have to fulfill is our health, our energy, which is coming from food. And usually, if we want to produce food or the resources where the food is available is near the natural resources such as river, lake, anything related to water actually, because by having water then you can create your own plantation, and then you can create your own field or maybe a farm so that you can produce resources for your food, for your own food. That's why during the history, throughout the history, you can see that the first settlement is usually located near the natural resources. That's why in America specifically, it started near the harbors, river landings, and also the crossings of transportation routes. Another notes are the starting point of a community of or urban development, usually near the transportation area, because in those area, the transportation section or routes, people can access of many stuff in the past, so that it is becoming very convenient for them to live. Usually, people will start with small pack of people in the past. I don't think that you maybe experience starting a family in an empty land because you've grown up in a city and in a civilized place. In the past, everything is started from a small family and then grow with the incomers, and then or immigrations from other part of the country, for example, and then they bonded together to create a small family and then also community. So maybe if you haven't experienced that closeness or family relatives related stuff with your neighbor, if you visit kampung, you can still feel the same type of ambience where you are close with your neighbor and you can feel that your neighbor is a part of your life. Maybe you can call them your relatives. You can ask them help without having doubt, because they are really dependent. They are you can depend on them. So after that, if you if the community is growing, then of course it creates a bigger type of group, and this group creates town. This town, usually we called it town. Town is exactly like a bigger community rather than like individual several families, but it started to grow, so they try to build more facilities, more places to have gathering in maybe in regular basis. So we called it a town, and when each town is connected each other, then we create a city where you live now. So that's the short history of urban development since the prehistoric time. So it started from a small family. I think you can take a look at Flintstone if you watch the cartoon. The cartoon tells you about how they started to have a social life within one family and another family, and it grows until you form a big city like this. There are variation where people coming from everywhere, and the business is growing, commerce is growing, industry is developing fast, so the city is expanding. This is what we called farm to city movement, because the city offers a lot of chances, a lot of opportunities for people to work and to get a convenience life compared to villagers. There are so many people from an area which is not a city, go to the city to find a better job. In the past, this is called farm to city movement. Even up to this day, you can find this phenomena in our country as well. But in the beginning of civilization, we have this type of movement from the farm to city. So people started to think that city is better, so that they go to city to find a new job, hoping that they can increase their quality of life. And usually the city is not located near the farm. The city is usually developed in the area of commercials, so where the trading happened in the past. As you may note that Surabaya is also a trading area in the history. That's why it develops quickly. That's why it becomes city. It is also it also applies with Jakarta as well. And then the surrounding area around those big nodes, I mean the trading area, becomes a farm or village, and then people are attracted to go to city so that they can get a better job and then get a better life. So those are the basic thing of the urbanization, actually, farm to city movement. But in mid 20, there is an invention, what we call automobile. It's like this. This is the first generation of car and modes of transportation, like private transportation, because previously you have we have train, but it's a public transportation which is not flexible, while automobile is more flexible because it's a private vehicle. This invention creates a reversed effect, so it's no longer farm to city movement, but it becomes a city to farm movement. The idea of city to farm movement is actually the rich people or the busy people in the city is actually feeling very exhausted with the busy life. so that they decided to find an escape in the suburban area. Well, I should not say that it becomes suburban first, because usually the area they visit is not is untouchable, so it's not civilized yet. So it's quite the nature is dominant, but then they came and others follow, so that it becomes suburban area. So, because of this invention, people are getting more flexibility to transport themselves between one place to another place. That's why the people from city try to move their lives into a relaxed kind of living in the suburban area, because they don't have to worry about working in a city using public transport that maybe is very limited, and it's not flexible. While they can, because they can have and they don't have to depend on horses and carriage, because it will take a longer time, and the maintenance is not easy. So the automobile helps them to transport themselves from one place to another in a more flexible way. This is what it looks like. This is their idea of having an escape from a busy industrial city. Usually, they will have a big house with a big loft where they can enjoy the nature while they are resting after the busy day in the city. This kind of setting only happens if you try to find an empty site outside the crowded city. That's why the movement is reversed. The trend is reversed because of this idea. But unfortunately, because more and more people attracted to this idea, we tend to forget that the nature is quite important. So most of the time, you can find this kind of situation where you do this. You can find deforestation all over the place just to find just to make some piece of land available for housings. This is what the negative effects from those reverse movement. Both movement actually have negative impacts. For example, if people coming from farm to city become overpopulated, so that the people from city go outside the city, but they destroy the nature environment or the nature landscape of the area outside the city itself. We still have much to learn about the basics and intricacies of group living, of land use, and of transportation planning. Because if we don't think about these matters, then you can see more deforestations and more natural resources extracted until we don't have any resources anymore. It is becoming very urgent for us as a designer and as a planner to think about how we are going to make a very good living by using the land, and also try to integrate good transportation system to create a better life. Now we move on to the problems. Because of those urban development, there are so many problems that you can face, and I believe that you have come to it in several occasions, but I will mention several things that is quite general about these problems. There are three major problems that we face related to the urban development. So the first is about monotony, and then the second is about unhealthful conditions. The last one is about danger. So these three becomes the major problems that we face related to community planning. If we are going to make serious community planning, then we have to think about these three things. So monotony is happen because of, first, the site is leveled. as you may understand that our earth is actually not flat, is it has its own topography. Everywhere is not the same. So if we are trying to create some type of very similar look and easy to build, then the site usually is leveled. That's why the first thing that causes the monotony is the site is leveled. And then the next thing is the trees and cover were destroyed. So if you for example, the deforestation, I believe that you have maybe experienced a new area or new development replace or substitute a natural environment. For example, the easiest way is I don't know whether you live in Surabaya or not, but when I was a student in my undergraduate, the East Coast area is actually uninhibited. So it's an empty area. It's like a wild area or jungle. I believe not like heavy forest, but it's untouched. So it's a natural environment. But the development is there. So little by little, they build the housings and then the attractions around it, and they expand it until up to this day. You can see more apartments, schools, stores, and so many things. But back then, the development is starting from zero, from natural environment, and it causes a lot of negative effects. First of all, the natural habitat is destroyed, so that I remember in 2014 there is so-called tomcat. I will show you in the next image that attack people in the campus because it's near the East Coast development, and um, those animals is actually having the habitat of um, um, swamp area, but then the swamp area is leveled and then there is no water, there is no plant to hold on, so they fly away around Kaputi, Gebang, and also ITS. That's why I remember when I did my final project, so some of my friends, I think most of my friends got irritation in the skin, rash that is really hurtful. It's like a burning scar, and it's created by those animals. And when the news tried to figure out where is it come from, it comes from actually in the development area of East Coast. So that's why the tree this is one of the effect of destroying the trees and also the cover. And then another thing is about the streams and drainage ways encased in massive storm sewers or open culverts, because we create houses. um, of course, we need to provide drainage ways and streams so that the natural one is not sufficient enough and it's not good enough to see. So that people try to encase it or pour it with the concrete so that it becomes an artificial streams and drainage ways, which is nowadays it is good, but it's not sufficient because we experience a lot of litter in the river. This is what it looks like monotony. So because of the fast process of developing this kind of housing, it doesn't have any variations. So everything looks the same, even though you can modify a little bit, but it's actually provided like this. The module is like this. Well, if we are talking about a modular development in architecture, it is a good thing because it is efficient. But in the point of view, it's not giving a dynamic ambience in the area. So this is what it looks like, the monotony. Well, we can say that it's good, but also it can be bad. So it depends on you. But from this book, they mentioned that the problems is about the monotony. Um, what is extremely taken in Indonesia is there are more development like this. So you are sold with one unit that is typical with another unit. So this typicality sometimes hard to avoid, because this is the easiest way to get housing nowadays. And for maybe for younger generations, it offers so much more flexibility, because they don't have to think about the design, and they just buy the house and they just stay in that house, and they don't have to think about anything. um, it becomes a lot more popular in Indonesia nowadays. The housing development, you can find it not only in Surabaya, but uh, and Jakarta as well, but it's already spread out through even the suburban area. They provide not only two-story houses, but also one-story house that typically very similar per unit, because it's easy to be built, and you don't have to put a lot of money for a single unit. This is what it looks like. So the tomcat is, I believe that you know this, you are now used to it, but back then when it first came out, it is very scary. Every time I see this animal on top of my desk, I always bring spray that can kill it, because you cannot touch it. When you touch it, it will there is a secretion in its body that makes those irritation, and the irritation is worse than you can ever imagine. Some of my friend got the whole hand, and he cannot work for the final project because of this small animal. And then even after, I remember that even after this animal is killed, for example, on top of my desk, I always give spray of hand sanitizer or whatever, because we don't want to get the poison from this animal. That's why if we, as a designer and a planner, we have to think about that. We are not allowed to destroy the natural habitat of any area, actually, because if we build something from zero and we don't think about the consequences, there are some animals that maybe don't have places to live anymore. And recently, you can find a lot of news in TV mentioning that sometimes a monkey, like a wild monkey or wild tiger, wild, I don't know what, wild crocodile, going out from the jungle and goes to people's houses. It's quite dangerous. It's not they are feeling that they want to steal from us, but actually we are stealing from them. We are taking their habitat, and then they are confused. They don't know where to stay anymore, and think that our housing is part of their habitat. So that's why they came to houses and so on. So that's why, as a planner, it's our job to think about their habitat as well. So we are not literally just think about the commercials, the benefits, that the profits that we will get, but we have to think about how to preserve them as well. Monotony has an opposite that becomes the answer of these problems, which is variety. So if we want to create variety, which is the antithesis of monotony, can be preserved and attained by sensitive land and community planning. So we have to think about the land and community planning sensitively. Sensitive means that we have to not only um, thinking about the cost at the beginning, but also we have to think about the cost in the future. For example, if we want to destroy the whole habitat, like the for example, the swamp habitat or the deforestation, then we lose the ability of the earth to hold on the water, so that the rainwater runoff always potentially creates flood. And then we are thinking about how to avoid flood, but actually how to avoid flood is don't deforest, don't deforest your forest. So that's what what our job is. We have to be sensitive about the land and community planning. We have to think not only for our benefit but also for the nature benefit, so that we don't get any negative impact or negative side from the nature itself. Next problems in is about the inefficiency. So most of the time, the development of an area is starting from an unplanned neighborhood. So, as I mentioned before, in the history, it started from one family occupying the area, and then there are additional family coming, and then it piles up so that they can create a neighborhood. This type of unplanned neighborhood creates inefficiency, because there's no system, there's no planning, so everything is everywhere and it's not very efficient enough. So, the well planned neighborhood or community, urban, suburban, or rural, should function as an efficient mechanism. Specifically in energy and materials, must be conserved and frictions must be eliminated. So we are using the materials and also the energy as efficient as possible. And energy conservation suggests that things and services needed should be convenient, easy to reach, and close at hand. Because people try to because the nature of the history of urban development, where it started from one family to another family, then usually the development in those areas is only related to the housing, and the amenities such as hospital and then schools, market and stuff is located far away from those areas. It becomes not efficient because you have to travel and you have to um, burn the fuel of your vehicles to get what you need in different area. That's why it's called not efficient. So convenient, easy to reach means that it's near you, it's around you, and it's in between the catchment area of those neighborhood, so that we can access it without having to put a lot of effort or energy. Um, One of the idea of this inefficiency can be sorted by the pedestrian first. So the pedestrian first is actually a mix of infrastructure, activity, and priority. So it is not good to have like one like a big area and then you divide it into three different area, like this one is housing and settlements, this area is services only, and this area is commerce only. It's not that good. So many researchers think that those type of planning is not worth it anymore, because people nowadays we have to develop those kind of living where we try to save more energy and not trying to contribute more pollution to our environment. So the easiest way is trying to create a mix of infrastructure, activity, and priority. Means that we are creating a compact type of community where everything is actually available locally. In this idea, There, what it means by infrastructure is trying to ensure a physical space and design that promotes walking. So you have to create those infrastructure first. If the infrastructure is just an area for walking, like this image, because for the example, if you try to go to McDonald's in Mulyasari, I believe you have to take a vehicle to go there. It's, yes, it's possible for you to walk, but it's not convenient enough. I've tried that, and it's a bit weird and not safe. So that I never want to repeat those experience anymore. So again, the infrastructure must be available first. It's related to the sidewalks and then crosswalks, and also signals give priority to pedestrians to cross first and limit wait time while ensuring enough time for all to cross. Um, this is what is very funny in our country. So whenever we have I believe that most area nowadays have built the signals or the light to stop the cars or other vehicles, so that the people can cross the road. But the funniest thing is sometimes the car or the vehicle doesn't want to stop. They are not aware there is a light there, like a stopping light there, so that they have to stop whenever the walking people, the pedestrian hit the bell or hit the light. So those awareness is very limited in Indonesia. That's why it's still dangerous, even though we have those signals or the those light. And then second is related to the activity. Bring people and activities close enough to walk in safe and lively environments. So this activity can be anything, such as post office, market, and then health center or clinic that is locally available, traditional market and modern market, uh, anything that is actually our daily basis needs. It should be available in a community level, so that we don't have to travel, go outside. For example, you are living in Kaputi and then you have to travel to Rungkut to buy something. Yes, you can, but it should be done occasionally, so it's not like every day. That's how you attract people to live in the community. And then put priority, so give preference to walking, cycling, and transit over private cars. So the private cars usually will be limited into some areas, and more areas will be available for walking and cycling, while the cars and other vehicles are located outside the perimeter. So that's how to ensure that the car or vehicle doesn't interfere the walking area. The example is I lived in Nottingham in 2014. So I have a flat in Beeston, and Beeston is the a good example of this kind of walk first uh, area development. What did it say? So in Beeston, you can. This is the Beeston Town Center, where you can find anything, thrift shop like Cancer Research UK like this, and then Poundland, and then you can find grocery stores. There are several grocery stores. It is mixed together with the traditional market as well. So the people like farmers or fishermen can sell everything in this part outside the stores. But the stores also offers clothes, books, medicine, health clinic, and everything. Even bank, post office as well. So whenever I need to do something, I just have to walk about 10 minutes from my house and then arrive at this a town center called Piston Center, and I can find anything here. So this is what it looks like, literally. So you can meet your friend, go to cafe, eat. There are several Korean restaurant as well, and then Korean market, Chinese market, everything is here. So you don't have to worry about, I don't have to go to the city center. So Nottingham have city center. So this is why we called, like a compact community living, where the community itself try to and live in this area, uh, uh, by selling their products. Sometimes they perform and then involved with children's, and then have a lot of activities here. And the in the other part of this center, you also can find like cafe and then bank and then post office as well. So everything you need is actually can be filled here. It's not just one bank. So there are several banks that you can visit here, which is very complete. So you don't have to worry about wow, I have to go to the city center to buy this. You don't have to, because actually your daily needs can be fulfilled here. And every morning there will be like an open market like this, where the local people will sell anything, or maybe in like a startup trying to sell their products, they can be here. And it's very cheap, because it's locally regulated by the government and also the community itself. And then there's no car here. A car is not allowed in this road. Everything is parked outside this area, but this area can be accessed by the public transport, such as tram, and also buses. So it's very convenient, and I hope that you can experience this in the future, because this type of living is becoming more convenient for us, so that we don't have to use our car to visit another place to fulfill our daily needs. Related the inefficiency is the common practice of constructing related to sewers, utility mains, and energy distribution. So the common practice is using the street right of way to put these sources, and it becomes the difficulties, because as you may understood that Indonesia, we still use the power poles or tiang listrik, and then overhead wires as well. And sometimes it is disturbed by the tree. Well, actually, we have to think in the other way around. So the trees is actually being disturbed by the power poles and overhead wires. So that people nowadays trying to cut off the trees, because it will damage or make intrusiveness in the power poles and overhead wires. And then the second inefficiency is related to the pavement and closed lane. Usually, if you see you want to make a bigger sewage system in the city, then you will have to open the whole pavement and also the whole lane and started new asphalt, creating new pavement again. It's not very effective. So those inefficiency happens if we still have this kind of practice. In the like the developed country, they don't use this anymore. Yes, they are still using pavement and stuff, but they are using a specific pavement, so that they don't have to take away all the pavement, destroy it, and then use something new, but they can open it and then maintain it, so without having to change or substitute the old one. In many unplanned communities, the greatest waste is in uncalled for and destructive earthwork and unneeded storm sewer construction. It comes from the site layout that runs counter to the topography. So usually we tend to love having level side or flat side, so that we forgot about the rain of the water runoff from the rain. And then also we usually destroy the vegetation, and the drainage ways is blocked. That's why the heavy expense of the resultant of this phenomena is quite big. So the expense is actually based on the drainage structures and also soil stabilization. Imagine how much money we have to spend just to take care of our river, because there are a lot of litter, there are a lot of waste in that, but it's and it creates flooding. So that's why this is becoming the another inefficiency. Next is about the unhealthful conditions. It's related to the mental well-being and also the physical well-being. So in here, the mental well-being derives from rational order and behavior. Mental well-being will lead to the physical well-being. So that's why we have to think about the mental well-being first, and no, first. I mean, we have to think about mental well-being as well as we are thinking about our physical well-being. When living conditions are clearly unreasonable, when the daily experience is one of frustration, anxiety, or disgust, it is hard to maintain a positive state of mind. That's why the more dense a city or area or neighborhood, it tends to be unhealthy, because there's this traffic jam. Traffic jam is really affecting our mental health. Tired, unprepared, bored, stressed. Um, it's like trapped in a space in a very long time. I've lived in Jakarta for maybe a year, and I would like to say that's enough for me to experience this type of traffic jam. I'm trying to use public transport. I love the public transport in Jakarta, but unfortunately, the traffic jam is really hard to avoid. Um, it causes a big stress. I don't know whether you live in Jakarta at the moment, but you can, maybe you are used to it. But for people like me who live in Surabaya, I don't. It's rare for me to get this type of condition, so it creates stress. And I believe there are so many research mentioning that this type of a condition creates a big stress. Imagine that you have to deal with the road dilemma or the road drama, where you have to push your car slowly and then stop directly and then slowly again, directly again. It's tiring. So that's become the source of stress. Uh, um, Another thing is related to the overpopulated. Jakarta is having a very reliable and good public transportation, and I love it. And I always use those public transportation instead of taking Grab or Gojek to go to somewhere, because I do love using public transportation. Um, but unfortunately, this is happen. Even in Japan, it happens. But I want to show you what it looks like. I used to live in Kalibata, so in the morning, and I work in where is that called, in the West Jakarta. So I need to take this train until I forgot the train station name. I believe, until Palmera. So I need to take this from Kalibata to Palmera. I believe that if you live in Jakarta, you know that those lines is crazily overpopulated from people who lived in Bogor, because from Bogor and then to Kalibata, and then Kalibata to Manggarai, and then and so on. And I finished in Palmerah, and I have to switch. I have to switch train as well in Manggarai also. I remember the first time I tried to take this train, or KRL. I cannot go in because it's full like this. And then my friend told me, if you don't go in, then you never get in, because it will be full all over the time. Like I was thinking, okay, so how do I get in? So that's why I have to be strong. So you have to push a lot of people, be ready near the doors, and then keep your belongings, and then just move, and then keep your spot, push everyone inside, and then you can get a spot there eventually. I don't know how, but it works for me for about maybe 6 months. I live in Jakarta, and it works. Literally, it works. So it looks like this. It almost every time I stand like these people as well. So whenever the door closes, I have to hold my breath so that it can close, because you will be feeling very guilty if it cannot close, because the train will not start to move, and it creates delay for other train and stuff, and people want to go home as soon as possible. That's why it's overpopulated. This is one thing that also considered unhealthy, because I was so stressed. I want to why actually I choose public transportation, because I don't want to spend my time driving. I think it's not really productive, because I usually take a bus during my masters, and then read a book. So that's I want to recreate those activity again, but then it's impossible to do when you are in Jakarta. So yeah, I seldomly do that. Reading is not possible in KRL, especially like this. So it becomes unhealthy as well. It becomes another major of stress. And then another thing is overhearing people's conversation. Sometimes it's nice to hear motivational talk, but sometimes it's very toxic, so you don't want to hear those conversations as well. Again, it becomes unhealthy conditions. Thankfully, Surabaya now provides Surabaya bus, which is really nice, and I've tried it several times. And I can recall the experience like in the UK, where you sit in the bus and then read a book, and then when you arrive at the destination, just get off. So you feel more productive like that way. So compared when I compare myself to live in Jakarta and Surabaya, I feel more comfortable living in Surabaya. That's me. So everyone is different, but maybe you can live this kind of way because you're used to it, but I'm not used to it. That's why I moved back to Surabaya. So this is about the unhealthy lifestyle. Another unhealthy condition is related to this waste. The higher risk of flood, which is not really nice. You have to clean your house regularly, and then you cannot avoid that anymore, and then the dirt and stuff is not healthy as well. It becomes you are being very obnoxious and worried about the condition of your house as well during this type of flood. And the last one is about the danger problem. So there is a question that is really intrigued me as well. Who could deny that our present communities, as most of us experience them, pose danger to life and limb? So more and more danger threatening us throughout the communities. For example, the street crossing and traffic intersections. While so many people not taking it seriously. They just want to get to the destination as soon as possible, so they don't care about the red light. Or yes, they care about the red light, but they don't read the boundaries in the road, like the white mark, so where they have to stop. They don't think about that, and it becomes very dangerous. And then the mix of people and vehicles, when we don't separate people and vehicles, we don't provide separate facilities or infrastructure, then it becomes a dangerous area. Like I said, when you try to walk from ITS to McDonald's in Mulyasari, it is dangerous for you to walk because one, it is hard to find the crossing road, the crossroads, and second, it is not the pedestrian is not continuous, so you have to go up and down, and it's tiring sometimes. And then the attitude of the vehicle is not that good, so it's very dangerous. And then overhead power lines, it's also dangerous. Next, about toxic levels of soil and water contamination, it's also dangerous. And then the polluted air that we breathe, of course, it's dangerous. So this danger is actually created by humans itself. That's why it's created by the communities, specifically this as well. So crimes is happening, mugging or maybe bullying, it's because of the human evolvement. That's why as a designer we have to think about how to design so that we can avoid this kind of danger. At least we are not providing the crime to occur, so we have to think about how to prevent it. um, After we are talking about the problems, then we have to think about the possibilities in the future that we can create a better community. So there are several factors that can be a possibility to improve our living. Building arrangements, access and circulation, activity centers, and also open space. Last one is about new ethics. So this building arrangements, access and circulations, activity centers, and open space is considered as strategies included in PUD, Planned Unit Development. So PUD is planning of sizable residential tracts that usually conducted by the community itself. So the community started to plan their community, and the best one is usually get a reward from the government. This is what it looks like in America. And then types of permitted land uses and total land coverage and density limits are fixed. New mixes of housing types and traffic-free neighborhoods, consistent features such as clustering and shared open space. So they create cluster and then they have shared open space, and those assembly will have to exclude the traffic. So the traffic is outside this area. So this area is really safe for the community to conduct their activity. First, related to the building arrangements, so new mixes of housing types and traffic-free neighborhoods are encouraged nowadays. Clustering and shared open space are consistent features, together with built-in convenience and recreation centers. More and more cities, specifically Indonesia, try to engage with it. Back then, we don't have any shared open space, but nowadays we can see it more and more, specifically in Surabaya. And then the resulting communities and new towns have demonstrated the many benefits of street residential groupings and pointed the way to new concept of true community living. This is what it looks like. As you can see here, there is a crossroad, the cross bridge to separate between vehicles and also pedestrian ways that is really safe. It's not that high like what we have in Indonesia, and there are open space that can be accessed by public, so that it's an open shared public space. Next, about the access and circulation. So if the new residential areas are to be traffic free, and then what of the automobile? What about it? So it is to be assumed that driver-operated vehicles in one form or another will be a favored form of transportation. If we have the typology of residential area that considered to be traffic-free, then most of the people who live there should use driver-operated vehicles such as public transportation. So you can take bus, you can take train, or maybe occasionally you can use taxi. So this is how it can be achieved. This is the example of the area where there is no traffic inside. So many competitions nowadays related to this concept. As you can see here, you cannot find a single road that is accessible by the vehicle because it's outside this grid. So this kind of living creates and encourage you to walk more, to interact more, and have more space to get your physical activity. And some of the doesn't mean that if we are talking about free traffic area, then the cars is not present. Well, actually, in several developed country, they actually have developed their neighborhood or the community alongside the road, so they cannot avoid having cars because maybe it's not accessible with the public transportation and so on. But what they can do is trying to slow down like this so that children can play in the roads and it's not dangerous for them to explore the roads. So that you can see here the car is parked, so it's not going out. Maybe you can go out, but in a very slow speed. This is what we can do in in already built environment. And then related to the activity centers, in the more recent mixed-use planned communities, housing units of varying types are grouped closely around the activity centers. Not only is access more easy, but this lively, more dramatic mix affords welcome variety and increased opportunity for neighbor-to-neighbor meetings and friendships. Because the activity centers is actually located in the neighborhood area, so we can conduct any activities related to social life with our neighbor in those area. We don't have to worry about meeting new people, but it becomes your neighborhood that you can know and you can feel better and safer. In such freely composed, more compact and focalized residential groupings, the activity hubs and nodes get more use, as do the interconnecting paths of pedestrian movement. Because it is located in nearby, so you don't have to take your vehicle, and then of course it encourages you to use to be pedestrian, and then it becomes nodes and also hubs that connects your one neighborhood to another neighborhood. This is what it looks like in Barcelona. So the super block is actually doesn't have this type of open space or shared space. But nowadays they try to plan this so that the car is actually outside, still in the road. But people who live here can have like activity together in this area, so that they don't have to visit another place to get what they need. Next, related to open spaces, so it is mainly in the outdoor ways and places that communal living takes place. Open space equates with many forms of recreation. Usually, open spaces are related to the forms of recreation such as park, amusement park, or any other type of park. If it follows and envelopes the drainage ways and streams, it serves to preserve the natural growth and define buildable areas with loops of refreshing green. So some of the open spaces usually helps the drainage ways and streams. It can absorb the rainwater runoff, so that it can reduce the risk of flooding. And also it provides cover for birds and small animals that contribute much delight to the local scene, not only in the suburbs but in the inner city as well. I think for this last part, you can see that ITS actually becomes the area of birds and small animals to live. That's why you are not allowed to hunt the bird inside ITS. Even fishing is not allowed because we are trying to conserve those birds and also other animals in at ITS. But unfortunately, ITS cannot be those helpers on drainage waste system and drainage waste and streams, because as you can as you have experienced that usually during the heavy rainy days we experience flooding in our campus. So this is the example of the open space that creates a lot of function for the community. First, it becomes the body water and the water storage when the rain is there, so that there is no flooding, and also it provides recreation as well as become the habitat of animals. This is the site plan of Highfield Park. The Highfield Park is located in Nottingham. It's actually my campus. It's literally in front of my campus. When I so my house is around there, but I have a friend who live around here, if I'm not mistaken, or here. I forgot. But it's literally in front of the campus, and then sorry about that. um, so whenever we have a party or whenever I feel hungry and want to get free food, I just went to his house to get food, because it's literally located in front of the gate of the campus. I don't know why he got that house. Um, so when you take a look at this one, this is a playing ground, so it can be accessed by publics. And usually in the weekend, during the summer, or maybe in the afternoon, when it's a little bit warm, children and their parents will play here. So people who live around this area or even in this area go here to play and I don't know, try to find entertainment here. Even here we have like a Janogli art center where usually you have plays like or musical drama or anything else that can be also um, can be attended by the public people. And then you have this big lake that is available for public use as well. You can do rowing, or maybe you want to hire a boat to take a look at this giant lake. It's bigger than ITS actually. And then this is a whole body of jungle. I usually love to get lost inside here when I got stressed out. This is a jungle as well. Well, it's literally like jungle. And then here is tennis court and other sport court that available for students of University of Nottingham and also for the public. So this whole area is actually the open space that is available for public, even though it belongs to the university. Um, and it provides recreation as well as preservation for the natural habitat, as well as mitigating the flooding risk for this area. This is what it looks like. If you can see that it's really green, and it's actually near community or neighborhood where they can access this part. So the lake is quite big and there are several other facilities, and the university is in that. Well, actually it's here already. Even they have library here, so it's basically it's like ITS but bigger, and having more topographical area, because if I can show the image of the section, this one is a hill, so like it's maybe like 45-degree if you climb it. That's why when you take a tram and then drop off here and your campus is there, you have to run across here and goes to those hills, which is a little bit tired, but you will get used to it because this park is really nice, specifically when you're a student and you got stressed and you went home. Passing through this park, it's like refreshing, like literally refreshing. And no cars allowed here. Only bicycle is allowed, and also a bus, or campus bus that is allowed. So no vehicle are allowed. There are different route for private vehicles. But luckily, more and more park is available in Surabaya. The one that I the most favorite one for me is Taman Bungkul because it creates those balance between the natural, the hardscape and the softscape, that helps people to interact not only with the urban character but also with the natural characters. Um, let's move on to the new the other thing is related to the new ethic in community planning. If I mention about the PUD, now the new ethic is called PCD. So PCD stands for preserve, conserve, and develop. The systems majorly consist of three activities. First is preserve the best of natural and historic features. Second, conserve with limited use and interconnecting open space framework. And then develop selected upland areas with site responsive building clusters. The step is a little bit different compared to the PUD. So the PCD starts from the project site is thoroughly analyzed by a team of qualified planning experts and scientific advisors, while the PUD started from the community who own the area. So, but this one is coming from the experts. And then second, on the topographic surface, a line is drawn those areas of high scenic, historic, or ecological value, which is called P, preserve. So it will be preserved intact and without significant disturbance. And then after that, there will be a conservation, which is C, conservation swath of lesser landscape value as protective buffers around them. So around it, if there is a landscape value that is lower than the high scenic, historic, or ecological value, the P one, the preserved one, so it becomes the buffers. And then followed by the conservation. C, areas may be devoted to limited open space or recreational uses that will not harm their natural quality. This conservation usually related to the open space and also recreational use. And then the fourth is development, so or construction. Areas are only then allocated on the receptive higher ground. So after you put the priority of the historic and the important part of the neighborhood, and then you try to develop those housing. The structures are usually clustered in more compact and efficient arrangements within the blue and green open space framework. Again, using those clustered that is compact and varied in activity. This is example of the planning process. So first of all, there will be the existing conditions like this, and then after you analyze it, there is a regional framework. It's a little bit blurred here. And then you have the circulation patterns, and then you try to overlay it so that you can get a conceptual community plans. But also we are not allowed to forget that there will be maybe possibility to change the plan as well, so that it must create a flexibility, so plus possible plan adjustments like this. Now we come to the last part of this lecture, which is the new directions. So the new directions are related to the improved approach that are continually emerging and give new meaning to such words as housing, health, education, recreation, and community. In the shaping of our more advanced residential areas, the following principles are being successfully applied. So after this, I will show you a list of things that is being considered as successful to be applied to create the balance between housing, health, education, recreation, and also community. First is applying the POD approach. I have mentioned you before, so it comes from the community and they try to enhance their own neighborhood. And then request flexibility zoning when a planner or designer realize that there needs to be a change, then you can actually request a flexibility zoning. And then consider the transfer of development rights. If you find that the development is not right or it's not appropriate and give negative impact for the surrounding, then you can consider the transfer of development rights. So the development will be shifted to another thing that is more beneficial. And then relate all studies to water resource management. Again, because water become the most important part in our life as a human, then we have to think about how to avoid flood, how to not causing flood, how to preserve water for drinking, for daily life, and so on. And then provide perimeter buffering. Of course, we have to create, if you have ever heard about the green belt in London, this is one of the successful project, but nowadays becomes a little bit dilemma, because actually the green belt project is trying to limit the built area of London, so that it doesn't overpopulate it. Um, Not overpopulated, overbuilt. So there are green areas or brown areas that is not allowed to be built, and the development is already in the center only, so that the housing will be developed in that only. But unfortunately, the population of London is increasing each year, and the housing demand is high, and it's not sufficient enough. So people are trying to find the balance between using the green space or the green belt, and also providing housing for the people in London. And then next is create a community portal. So community portal is related to the identity of those neighborhoods. So you can create gate and stuffs that mark down the area of your community. And then ensure regional access. Of course, you have to create access for the regional. For example, you create local roads, or maybe it can be accessed through the river, and it must be easily accessible for the people itself. And then preclude through community trucking. As you may know, that truck usually destroy the asphalt of the local road. So some country will use a different road for the trucking, and those road is directly connected to the storage area or the warehouses area, so that it doesn't have to cross in the middle of the housing road or the local road. And then next is about the plan and open space framework. Of course, if we want to encourage people to walk more, to have an active physical activity, then we have to create this open space framework. And then plan a hierarchy of traffic ways. It's I think it's already applied in Indonesia. Like you have a bigger road which is designated for specific vehicles, and then smaller and get smaller. And then limit roadside frontage. This is how one of the way to create a free traffic area. So the roadside is actually limited. The car is not allowed to enter a specific area. And then make use of three-way street intersections to reduce the traffic jam, because it's a lot, and it will reduce the congestion of the traffic as well. And then provide for rapid transit. Rapid transit is really nice and really helpful for busy city such as Surabaya and also Jakarta. I think you have known the benefit of the KRL compared to previously, and then also Transjakarta is really nice. People can actually there are significant amount of people who use it rather than using their own vehicle. And then integrate path of movement. So the path of movement must be integrated. for walking, for cycling, so that it doesn't have so that it doesn't interfere each other. And then vary the housing types means that in one area it should be there should be variation such as children, youngsters, young adult, and also the seniors. So that and it also needs to encourage coming from all of varied uh, many type of races, so that you can live in a diversity. And then systemize the site installations, cluster the buildings as I mentioned, feature the school park campus. This is what it has been done in my previous campus, where the school park well, the university park is actually belongs to the university but can be enjoyed by the community. And then include convenience shopping. So you have to put the convenience store where in the local community. I think you can find it in nowadays in a mart or Alfamart. It's really easy. And then provide employment opportunities. Relate to the regional centers means that you have what I mean piston centers, as I previously give an example for you, so that I don't have to go to the city center. So it can be done in the regional level. And then plan for transient accommodations. Consider a conference center. I think even in Indonesia we have this, like Balai RT, Balai RW, we have this conference center. And make recreation a way of life. So try to not get stressed with the life, and it will produce a better life. And then encourage community programs, activities, and events. Well, it actually you can find it in Indonesia, like I don't know what it is called. The youngsters in the village usually still have this kind of activities. And then build out as you go means that you are not allowed to abandon a building in the middle of the construction. Well, we see that a lot of people, a lot of projects unfinished, and it is abandoned, so it's not allowed. So build out as you go. And then ensure a high level of maintenance, honor the historic landmarks, of course, and then establish nature preserves. I have mentioned about the consequences if you do damaging the environment. And then name a scientist advisory council. So again, it's related to the experts to give the community itself a boost of knowledge or theory so that they can apply it. If they took this advice, maybe they can improve their idea. And then appoint an environmental control officer. Of course, it's related to the expert. And then form a design review board. This one is also considered an expert. Again, if we want to design something, we need to be criticized. We need to take a look at from another perspective so that we can get the best results. And this is how this type of experts take roles. And then prepare a development guideline manual. I think all countries have it, all cities have it. And then establish a means of governance. We have to have a good governance. And then create a homeowners association, so the homeowners also feeling that they have a sense of belonging to their neighborhood. And ensure flexibility with control. That's all for today's class. If you have any question, please drop it in the WhatsApp group. Oh, sorry, please what? Oh, yeah, we don't have the WhatsApp group. I will give you a Q&A link in the classroom. If you have any question related to this lecture, then you can drop it there, and then I will answer it as soon as possible. Thank you and have a nice day.